My dear wife, and we ask that you ask your questions in the chat. So this way, some of the questions, if not all of the questions, can be answered while we go along. So with that, Dr. Foy, the floor is yours.
Mr. Jackson, thank you. Mrs. Jackson, thank you. PTA, PTSA members, we thank you on behalf of the guidance department. We truly appreciate you setting this up for us. I just want to give a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'll let the other members of the department introduce themselves. We originally had a video that we upload so that you can view it at any time. But I guess in the last meeting, Mr. Smith met and said it would be live because that's what's posted on the calendar. So we decided to do it tonight live as per the calendar. So we really do appreciate, Mr. Jackson, you setting this up for us. And we appreciate all the people that are able to participate tonight and be here with us for the college university presentation. We do also understand that 6:30 may not be the best time for some, but unfortunately, the reality is there's no best time that works for everyone. So, you know, we spoke to other guidance departments and saw what time they put on their presentations. And then we kind of just realized that 6:30 kind of was the sweet spot. Like 7:30 for some was too late, and obviously 5 is too early. So for those who can be here tonight, we're again truly appreciative of your willingness to partner with us at this hour. And for anyone who can't, we thank Mr. Jackson again for not only setting this up, but for Mr. and Ms. Jackson recording this so that we will be able to share the link of this recording. And then we have another guidance video presentation that we'll have up on Monday as well. For anyone who missed it tonight, they'll still be able to access this information. And last but not least, there's always the ability to email us, call us, come in and meet with us, request a Google Meet with us, or just have your child come and see us. So no matter what, we'll always make sure that we do our best to get the information to the parents in whatever manner they deem best to receive it. So again, I'm Joe Foy from the Woodlands High School Guidance Department, and I thank you for coming tonight, and I say welcome.
Thank you, welcome. I am Rob Dominguez, the other high school guidance counselor.
I thought you were going longer than that, Mr. Dominguez. Hi, I'm Leslie Levine. I am by title the college essay specialist.
Yes, and as many of you know, Ms. Jones passed away, so we were able to move Ms. Almonte from the middle school, to the high school. But unfortunately, and fortunately, she will not be able to be with us tonight. So it's unfortunate because she's actually wonderful. And for anyone who didn't really get a chance to work with her, meet her, get to know her in the middle school, tonight would have been a great chance for you to get a chance to get a feel for who she is and what she's about. But fortunately, she's not here because she's pregnant. And we knew she was going out on maternity leave, but our clock was accelerated a bit sooner than expected. Originally, the doctor gave her a due date of November 2nd. So she was going to try and push it as much as she could, as close as she could to November. But unfortunately, last week, the doctor told her that she was done. She can't come to work anymore. She has to stay off her feet, no walking. She's been in and out of the hospital. So the fortunate part is she's not with us because pretty soon she'll be bringing a new Almonte into the world. So we're really happy for her and excited. But we promise you that, we're more than ready to help all students, regardless of their last name and who their counselor of record is. We have an open door policy. Any student can see any counselor at any time. And if you've asked your children, do we stick to that motto? They'll tell you yes. As soon as they walk in the guidance office, we say to them, what do you need? That's it. We don't really ask them who you're here to see, what's your last name, or you can't work with someone because the person you're assigned to isn't here. We work with all kids at all times. So again, on behalf of Miss Almonte, who can't be here, I'm sure she'd want to say welcome and thank you as well. I guess we're going to jump right into it. We put together a slideshow that kind of answers the most basic questions during the college university process. We'll speak to each of the slides, and we, like Mr. Jackson said, at the end, there'll be a Q&A. We'll answer as many questions as we can. And if there's something that you think of that you didn't get a chance to ask tonight, we welcome the opportunity to speak with you later, again, either in person, through a Google Meet, a phone call, email us, or just have your child come and see us. Any student that's ever come to guidance will tell you that we see every student all the time. We've never turned anyone away. In fact, we're looking forward to one of the days, hopefully coming soon, where we can actually have a real lunch. We even do working lunches. We eat lunch while we're in the guidance office so that, again, there's always someone there to cover the department and answer questions. So with that, is it okay with everyone if I begin? Any objections? Okay, share my screen. Loving this technology here. So we want to welcome you to our virtual presentation. Again, originally this was something last year we recorded and uploaded so that families could watch it at their leisure, but we're going to present it tonight. And eventually this will actually be uploaded to the guidance website that you'll be able to find on the district website under the Woodlands homepage. So when people talk about the guidance department, you know, we're comprised of myself, Mr. Dominguez, who's here, Ms. Almonte, Ms. Leslie Levine, the essay specialist, and Ms. Sonia Giacobbe, the guidance secretary. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves because we want you to know that we're here to help, support, give advice, and guide the families. And if you see an email from Ms. Levine and Ms. Giacobbe, you now know who they are. We post a lot of stuff in our guidance Google Classroom, and we send a lot of emails to students. So you will be receiving a parent email soon that kind of walks you through the guidance Google Classroom, but we always encourage the parents to get involved, but have your child become more active and begin to advocate for themselves. So we ask that they regularly check their email, share the contents of the email with you, and also sit with them and go through the guidance Google Classroom. We do have tabs, so you can go directly to like employment, community service opportunities, volunteerism, or let's be honest, some people really just want to get to the scholarships and the money. So we have a tab just for that. There'll be information in there that's very useful for some, and there'll be some things that's not useful to you, but is useful for others. But anytime we get information, we immediately try to post it in our classroom. So when we talk about college, we know that for some people, it's their first time on the journey. And for others, they've done it before with a different child. And for some, you know, it's a great feeling. It's so exciting. And for others, you could be upset about it because maybe the child isn't where they need to be. So your choice of colleges and universities are limited. For some, the world is your oyster, but you don't have enough saved. And I'm smiling because that's where I'm at. My son's a senior this year, and he's looking at all these wonderful schools, and he did his part. He has the grades to support and justify every school he's thinking about applying to. I don't have the budget for it. He doesn't know that though. And I didn't say anything because Monday night I had a ton of Powerball tickets. And Tuesday morning I already, you know, had the check written out, just didn't put the name of the school it was going to go to. But then I found out the winner was in California. So I went through my phone book, looked through all the people I know that live in California. And then I realized not one of the people I know that lives in California, if they won, would send me any money. So I'm not even sure where I'm at during these fields. Okay, I know I'm not angry. I think I'm a little anxious personally, but I'm happy and I'm excited because I know, you know, for me, I'm very religious. I know God will find a way. So it's all good. So for you as well, there's nothing wrong with wherever you're at in your journey, however you may feel, if you're excited, if you're nervous, if you're anxious, maybe you're even sad. Because you know that in a year, if you're the parent of a junior, or in a few months, if you're the parent of a senior, your child is going to be leaving the nest. And that's okay to be sad and to miss them. You know, we spent a lot of time with them. So even though they're looking forward to branching out and going off onto this new journey, we're going to miss them. Miss Levine's going through it. You know, Mr. and Miss Jackson, I hate to pick on you, but I know you've gone through it with your wonderful son. And Mr. Dominguez is currently going through it. His daughter is a freshman at SUNY ESF, and he just came back from family weekend. So we understand all of the feels that you may be going through. We understand that you're going to feel it differently than we feel it because we're all unique individuals, but we truly do get it. But I would like to really believe that anyone that's partnered with us we'll say that we can demystify the process. We can take away a lot of anxiety. We can make it very much more understandable and manageable for both you and your child. The only thing, again, we don't do is pay for it. But I guarantee you that if you partner with us, if you email us, we'll email you back. If you call us, we'll call you back. If you send your child in to meet with us, we'll meet with them. We'll do everything that we can to make the process a better experience, towards the end than what it was when you first started. Okay. So again, it's totally okay to feel all of the feels. Now, we really want the parents to be part of the process. And being part of that process means a number of things. One of the things it means is having honest conversations with your child. One of the things you really need to do is discuss with them, I'm not letting you go to the University of Hawaii. Beautiful state, beautiful campus. I'm a big pineapple person myself. Everyone at Trader Joe's knows me. Okay. But that might be too far for you to let your child go to school. So have that conversation rather than having them apply and waste everyone's time and spend money on applications and possibly get in and get a decent financial package only to find out you're not letting them go that far. Sit down and have honest conversations about what type of school you'd like them to go to. If you know your child is the type that would get lost at a Syracuse with 30, 40,000 people, including commuters, and you really want them to go someplace smaller, if you know your child is bright, but you really haven't cut, the strings, and you're not sure how well they'll do independently, it's okay to keep them a little closer and want them to go to a smaller school, but have that conversation with them. Like I said, another difficult conversation is cost and affordability. We all want a full scholarship. We all want, to piece together a bunch of scholarships that cover the entire cost. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. We also live at a time where, thanks to COVID, a lot of people were unemployed, lost their jobs, had to use their savings. And colleges have lately gone heavily towards this trend of giving need-based money. There are some schools that still give merit-based money. So if you have, the A's, the A pluses, the B's, the B pluses, and anything else, you can apply for a scholarship. You can apply for grants. You can apply for work study. And there's a way to piece together the money to pay for it. But a lot of the initial money that's given is given because of need. Unfortunately, and we'll get into this a little bit further when we get to the financial aid section of scholarships. And we also have 2 financial aid nights that we're planning. So we'll definitely go further into it. But unfortunately, a lot of the money is given based off of need. And when you live in Westchester County, on paper, a lot of people don't show a lot of need. Now, you may have a lot of need, but unfortunately, the financial aid formula doesn't really care what state you live in. So in Westchester, you could actually make 6 figures. And on paper, that looks like a tremendous amount of money. But as we know, what it costs to live in Westchester, the taxes, property taxes, et cetera, $100,000 may not go as far in Westchester as it would someplace else. But for financial aid purposes, you're not showing a lot of need. So we just want you to know what you're up against when you're applying to these schools. If it has a $70,000 price tag and you actually on paper show a lot of money, you may not get a lot of money. And, it could be heartbreaking to a child. Some students don't do well when they're told no. And they may get into a school and then have to be told, well, you can't go there because we can't afford it. And so what did I work hard for all these years? And why was I busting my behind? Why did I sacrifice? Why did I give up doing this? I should have just gotten C pluses and B's. And that's actually a skit that I've heard before from parents in the room with the child. And we tell them that's actually not the case. You did the right thing by getting the great grades. Just unfortunately, some of these schools are insanely expensive. So some families look at the cost of the school and they only look at the tuition. They don't factor in the room and board, which for state universities is actually more than the tuition. But once you add that in, traveling back and forth, the meal plan, wanting to keep some money in the child's account, you actually have several schools in the country, that are not public institutions, that are private, that can be in the 70s, $70,000 when I say in the 70s. That's a lot of money. So, and if you have it, great. If you don't, that's okay also, but just be realistic and sit down with your child and have a conversation about the type of school, the cost of the school, whether you want them to commute, live on campus, if on-campus housing is full and now they have to live off campus in an apartment with a roommate that they've met on Craigslist, you may not be comfortable with that. But again, we really want you to have that conversation with your child. We also want you to keep an ongoing dialogue with us. We are very busy. We are very busy, but that doesn't mean we're too busy to communicate with you and your child. So we always apologize to you if you reach out to us and it takes us a day or two to get back to you, especially right now, because like I said, we're down a person, and we're down a person more than a month sooner than we expected to be down a person. But nevertheless, we are still here, and we will always do our best to make sure that the lines of communication are always kept open. So please be involved in every step of the process. If you find that your child wants to be truly independent and doesn't want to let you know what's going on, or doesn't communicate with you, or doesn't even tell you that, yeah, there was a senior assembly today with Ms. Levine, Mr. Dominguez, and Dr. Foy, and we went over the Common App and the do's and the don'ts, that's okay. You can always reach out to us and just say, hey, what's going on? And we could kind of fill you in. You know, Joe said he met with you today during third period, but won't tell me much else. We can actually share with you, you know, where your child is at during the process, but also be aware of your stress level and your child's stress level. Like, I had to realize I was putting a lot of stress on my son to get the essay done, because my son, he writes extremely well, but he gets caught up. And before you know it, he'll have a 1,500 word essay when they're only asking for 650 words. And to edit it, it's like stripping away the essence of what he wrote, and he stresses out. So when he stresses out, I stress out. And then when I stress out, I place more stress on him. So we just want you to be conscious and cognizant of your stress level, but also your child's. You know, sometimes they need to just put it away, walk away from it, take a break. And that's okay too. You know, consistency is significantly better during this process than sitting down and trying to do chunks of it or do it all at once. If you do 20, 30 minutes at a time, 15 minutes here, that's more than okay. Just again, at the end of the day, we want to produce healthy students, mentally healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy students, spiritually healthy students. So monitor your stress level, but just as importantly, monitor theirs. They may say everything's okay, but you know your children. So just monitor their stress level and your own during this entire process. Now, here's our do list, and I'll turn the mic over to Mr. Dominguez.
Yes, thank you. So, you know, the big question that always comes up, and these next two slides are really going to address the responsibilities of the student versus the responsibilities of the school. So question, my guidance counselor is going to do everything for me, right? And the answer to that is wrong. So there is a lot that we do, and there is a lot that the school is responsible for. But first and foremost, this is really the students' responsibilities. And number one is the application. As Dr. Foy mentioned, we did have an assembly today with the students where we went over kind of step by step how the common application works, which we're going to touch on in a minute as well here. But really, you know, as parents, sometimes we have kind of that, we're compelled to want to do things for our kids sometimes. This is one where we really always recommend the student really has to be responsible for the application. There may be some parent information that they will come to you for. They're going to ask about demographics. They're going to ask about parents' education level, things like that. But the application should be all on the student. In a minute, Ms. Levine is going to touch on the essay, so I'm going to skip over that right now. Activity sheet is a very important section of a college application. It works like a resume. You know, your child really wants to be able to put in the most important activities they've been involved in during the course of their high school years. You know, oftentimes on the application, the space for that is limited. So there's some prioritizing that needs to happen. We told the students today, you know, it actually helps when you get a checklist and get a lot of this information down first before you actually sit and start doing the application itself. A portfolio, maybe if a student is going into the arts or an art type of program, photography, they may be asking for a school portfolio. NCAA, For those student athletes, they are responsible for actually going to what is called the NCAA clearinghouse, which breaks down the credits you need to be eligible to be a student athlete in college. The application fee waiver are for those students that qualify for a fee waiver. It is often based on free or reduced lunch, and they will actually cover the fee to the colleges because unfortunately, some of these fees are very high and they do add up depending on how large of a list of schools your child is applying to. SAT, ACT, and test optional. We always tell the students really when they're going through this process, they have some homework to do. They have to not only look at the profile of the schools they're applying to, but how well of a fit they are. And part of that is also with the SAT and ACT. And I know we're coming from a very different time now with COVID. A lot of schools had gone to test optional because they were acknowledging that many of the SATs and ACTs were canceled. Since this past year, more and more schools are starting to look at the SAT and ACT, but many of them have remained test optional, but it really is up to the student to kind of check that school. You know, I'm really interested in Fordham University. Are they looking at the SAT or ACT, or is it still test optional? What are my options there? And, you know, all of this is information that they could easily find through the school websites and through the actual Common App that they will be using. Requesting letters of recommendation. Students are going to have to approach their teachers for these letters. And these letters are little snippets of what type of young person they are, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. So that's a very important step. We encourage the students to really do that early in the process because it gives teachers time to be able to write a letter of recommendation for them. But, you know, again, the onus is on them to really approach not only the teachers for the letters, but really figure out which teachers you feel are going to be able to write the best letter for you. So those are teachers you may have developed very good relationships throughout the years, not just someone you may have a passing kind of acquaintance with. Ultimately, obviously, submitting the application as well. However, we always encourage our students to not submit on a whim and to, again, keep parents as part of the process. We also always offer our students, if they're not comfortable, we actually recommend it, come by the guidance office, make an appointment with us. We'll sit when you're ready to submit the application, make sure, you know, every I is dotted, every T is crossed, make sure everything that needs to be there is there, everything is edited. We do recommend that, highly recommend students do that before they finally submit. However, ultimately it's up to them and up to you as well when they are ready to submit. And then the Common App links refers to the requesting letters as well. Everything now is a digital age, which is great. The Common App is very good at monitoring and keeping tabs of everything. You have a record of not only when you've sent a teacher a recommendation request, it'll tell you when the teacher received it, when they started it, when they've finished it and submitted it. Same thing with the school reports. So really that all goes digitally through their Common App accounts. And I guess Ms. Levine now is going to touch upon the essays.
Thanks, Mr. Dominguez. Just a little bit about me, because I realize the parents really have not had an occasion to meet me. This is the 9th class I'm working with at Woodlands High School. My background is as an attorney. That's what I did for a number of years, had to do a lot of writing then. And then I got a certificate in college counseling through UCLA. I actually prefer what I'm doing now. I keep up with the different type of essays. I keep up with things like High School Counselor Weekly, and I read what other experts are talking about. So if you have a student in a senior English class, which I assume all of you do, who are parents of seniors, they have heard me speak to their class at least once within the last few weeks about the essay writing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Common App, but just so you know, there's over 900 schools that do use the Common App. And students need to write an essay based on a list of prompts. They get to choose one from the Common App. The way that students get help is to either come look for me in guidance or email me for an appointment. It has to be by appointment because you can imagine I can't be working with 2 or 3 students at once. A lot of what I've been told might be confidential and they don't want to share it with anyone. And it's impossible to work on essays with more than 1 student at a time. They get my undivided attention for 1 class period at a time. So I do meet with them on a free period. I ask them, if they email me for an appointment, I ask them, please tell me what your free periods are on day 1 or day 2. I won't pull them out of a core class, but I can get them excused from gym or fitness. Sometimes students really only have time to meet me on lunch. I allow them to eat lunch in my office because I don't want anyone to starve. If a student, and I've run into this problem several times in the last week, if a student has emailed me asking for an appointment, trust me, I have emailed them back almost immediately, if not within 2 hours. And I've had several students say to me this week, I emailed you last week. And my answer is, and I emailed you back. And they go, oh, and they look in their email. It all goes back to what we keep saying. You have to, and this is what I would encourage parents to do. Keep pushing your kids to look at their emails because a lot of them, are not. I can help not only with the Common Application essay, but some colleges have school-specific essays, and I help with that also, and scholarship essays. The students can come to me, make an appointment. If they're applying for a particular scholarship, I will help them craft that essay. I will not write it for them, but I will do my best to help them bring it out in their own voice. Thanks very much.
Okay, so now that I know what I'm responsible for, what is the school responsible for? So there are definitely things that we are responsible for. First and foremost is the secondary school report, which is a council report on the Common App and on other applications. We keep referring to Common App because that is the most common, no pun intended, application that's going to be used, but all school individual application is going to have some form of a school report, council report, or recommendation. And that's basically, we enter the student's GPA, we upload their transcript, we do fill out a student evaluation where they ask us to evaluate students based on other students in their class, the class rank. We are a school that ranks. We've told the students that the GPAs and the ranks will be calculated very soon. So that's all information that is uploaded by us to the student's Common Application digitally. Our letter of recommendation is also added through the Common App, as well as the teacher letters. Everything is done through an email invite. As we explained to the students today in the assembly, there's a whole process. There's a FERPA waiver where they're waiving their rights to see the teacher and the council recommendations. That's part of this process. And then they are allowed to invite the teachers as recommenders, as well as their counselor. And it's as simple as entering the teacher's email and the counselor's email and clicking invite. And then we immediately have that link where we're able to upload all of this information onto their Common App. Mid-year grades, as we've told students before, while a rank in a GPA is calculated based on the 9th, 10th, and 11th cumulative GPAs, the senior year courses and grades actually do matter. A lot of times kids feel senior year is a time to kind of take a break. And while you may have earned a little bit of that break and a little bit of space in your schedule or leeway, you still want to challenge yourself. You still want to have some good core classes in there, because every school you apply to is going to ask for a mid-year report. And a mid-year is going to be basically the first and second marking periods of senior year. So they want to see that you haven't gone on vacation for senior year, that you're still pushing it, that you're still challenging yourself, that you're still taking some courses and doing well. And again, that is a report that we upload through the Common App. Teaches the letters of recommendation I just covered, and then the final transcript at the end when the process is all done and the student has been accepted to schools and made their final decision. They inform us of that final decision, and we then send a final transcript, which is the overall final transcript with all of the senior year final grades and courses listed. Because again, schools want to see that once you got accepted to their college, you didn't just tank and stop doing any work or going to class. And that shows up on that final transcript when we do send that. And the schools actually officially request that as soon as students graduate. They actually request it early, which makes kids nervous. A lot of times they're asking us, my school's asking me for a final transcript. And oftentimes you have to remind them it hasn't been finalized yet. You just graduated or you're about to graduate. So it's something the schools are very much on top of. Now, how do I apply? As we keep mentioning that magical common application, I wish the Common App existed when I applied to college. It just saves so much time and paper and effort. The Common App is really one application. It is filled out one time and you're good to go. Once a teacher letter is uploaded, once a school report is uploaded, once a counselor letter is uploaded, it is on your Common App. So even if you've already submitted 5 applications and you figure later, you're very interested in this other school that you just found out about, you want to throw an application in there, you could add them to your Common App list, answer a few of the school specific based questions, click submit, and they automatically will have access to that information that has already been uploaded. So it's really the best form of application. If they are applying to a school that does not take the Common App, that's okay. We can assist students with that as well. It's usually going to be some digital link on that school's website. But as Ms. Levine and Dr. Floyd pointed out before, 900 plus colleges use and accept the Common App. Many of them actually no longer have their own individual application. They just give you a link to Common App on their website. The Common Black College application is for the HBCUs, the historically Black colleges and universities, is kind of their form of the Common App. However, some of the HBCUs also can be found on Common App now. All of the SUNYs, the state universities, can be found on Common App now as well. And some of the CUNYs can. Originally, none of the CUNYs were found. And if you're applying to any of the CUNYs, which are the city universities, you would use their application. And it works in the same type of way where you have one application and you can apply to up to 6 different CUNYs at once. But some of the more popular CUNYs have now shown up on Common App, and every single one of the SUNYs is on there. So we always recommend to students, when you have that mix of state school and private school and out-of-state school, use the Common App even for all of your SUNY applications. It just keeps it in one hub. And then, as I said, school-specific applications. And I think that's actually outdated because I believe Penn State now is also on Common App, which it wasn't a year ago when we put this slide together.
Yes, Penn State is now on the Common App, but Georgetown University is not. So if
Still not, right.
So Georgetown, in this case, thank you, Mr. Dominguez, would be an example of a school that, like Ms. Levine said and Dominguez said, even though over 900 schools are on the Common App, if a student was applying to Georgetown, and we encourage them, if you can't find them on the Common App, go to the school's website, and when you go to apply, it'll direct you to the application process that they're using since they're not on the Common App. So you are correct. Penn State is now on the Common App, but Georgetown is not.
Well, no.
Okay, so there are a number of different admissions plans. 5 that I can think of at this point. So early decision, if a student wants to apply early decision, they should know that the college they're applying early decision to is their clear first choice. This is really what's for them. They know academically that the program meets their needs. And as a parent, it's important to know that the college meets your financial capabilities. because early decision is a binding decision, meaning if the student is accepted there, that's where they're going. If they have other applications pending, they have to withdraw them. The disadvantage, as I alluded to, is that you cannot compare financial aid offers if you're just applying early decision to this particular college. There are three possible outcomes. Student can be accepted, the student can be deferred, which means they're pushed into the regular decision pool to be compared against other applicants, or they can be denied outright. Generally, it's November 1st as a deadline. So that's coming up soon if we have any students really thinking seriously about an 11/1 deadline. Generally, well, not generally, all the time that I know of, early decision will be made and rendered to the student before we go on Christmas break. Early action is slightly different. It's usually the same deadline, November 1st. Occasionally it's November 15th. And it's a way of showing real interest in a school, because even though you're applying early, it's not binding. You can apply to several early action schools at the same time. And you still have until May 1st, what's called the common reply date, to decide where you're actually going to go to school. And you can obviously check financial aid offers one against another. Something that's, I'm not necessarily going in order of this as it's popping up. Something that's popped up recently, a little twist on early action, is something called restrictive early action. Restrictive early action is being used by schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford. They don't want students just willy-nilly applying to like every sort of high-end school. Restrictive early action means the student can only apply to one school that's under this restrictive early action umbrella. They can't apply to any other private college at the same time, but they can apply to public schools. For instance, if your student is applying to Yale, restrictive early action, they could still apply to SUNYs and CUNYs. Again, if you're accepted, you're not bound to go because it's still under that early action umbrella. You still have until May 1st to decide. Regular decision is really how most students across the country apply. The deadline is generally around the 1st of the year. Sometimes it's January 15th. Sometimes it's February 1st. We encourage all of our students to get everything done before the Christmas break. There's no time to panic over the Christmas break because the guidance department's not available. So we encourage everything to be done before they break. If your student is applying regular decision, they will, and every school pretty much has a regular decision option with a few exceptions. They will generally hear by early to late March what the decision is. Rolling admissions. Rolling admissions means that the student, the colleges continually evaluate as the applications are coming in. So rolling admissions usually could start at the beginning of September, but students can still be applying October, November, December, and they would generally hear within a month or two what the decision is. The issue comes up when the student decides, well, rolling admissions, who cares? I can still do this in March. But the problem might be at that point that the class of students they're seeking to admit might actually be filled up by then, or even if they're accepted, maybe there's no more on-campus housing, or maybe the student no longer has the power to pick out and register for the classes they'd really want to take. It might all be filled by then. So if your student is applying, and you can see all of this on the individual college's website, if your student is applying rolling admissions, they should still be encouraged to just get it done so that they have all options available to him or her. Thank you.
I would like to add one little piece of that before I move on to the financial aid. We highly recommend the students all the time, unless if you're not doing early and you're going to stick to rolling or regular admission, we always recommend the holiday break should be your unofficial deadline. You really want to have your applications in by the holiday break. And there's a few reasons for that. One is you can enjoy your break and not have anything hanging over your head. most in most cases, there's going to be a January 1 or a January 15th or even an early February. You don't want to be racing to get back to school, to get your applications in, whatever you still may need. So you really want to get that done before the break. And also, if there's anything you need from the counselors or even your teacher recommendation letters are still out there, we're on vacation as well, at the same time as the kids are. So chances are we may not necessarily see that email that comes on December 23rd. So we always tell kids, please kind of use it as your unofficial check, the holiday break for the deadlines. Now, moving on to financial aid.
Mr. Dominguez, just 1 second.
Yes.
For you, Ms. Levine and Dr. Foy, there are some questions in the chat that while you were doing your presentation, maybe the others can answer. So I'd encourage you to do so because some of them are pretty simple.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for financial aid, this one immediately makes me think of the earlier slide with the emojis and the feels. As a parent of a current freshman in college, this is the piece that for some reason had me the most stressed out. And it's really filling out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, which everyone really needs to do. Most schools are going to require you to fill that out. And then as a New York State resident, you're also going to fill out an application for New York State aid. What I can honestly tell you through my experience is it is way less stressful than you think it is. I was very happy to find out that when I finally sat to fill out the FAFSA and the financial aid forms, it was like, oh, this is it. And I'm not exaggerating. So again, it's one of those processes where you're going to set up a studentaid.gov login for yourself, and your child also has their own. So there's a part of the FAFSA that your student fills out. There's a part that the parent fills out. You can actually automatically transfer your IRS information from your tax return onto it, which is a very easy process. And in most cases, before anything is submitted and schools are added, the student and the parent both have to sign off. Even when a correction is made or a change is made, both of you need to sign off on it. As a New York State resident, it asks you, do you plan on applying for New York State aid? You check yes on that. It actually gives you the link to the HESC site, which is the Higher Education Services Corporation, which is the office that runs financial aid for New York State. And it does transfer some of that information to them as well. So this process is a lot easier and a lot less stressful than you may think it is. I can attest to that. That being said, it's, there's naturally stress involved because we're talking about money and what something's going to cost, and schools are not cheap, unfortunately. So any financial aid information that we come across, scholarship, dates, again, we post that regularly in Google Classroom, and we always recommend that students keep tabs of that. Also here, you'll see the link to our YouTube link, which is our previous financial aid workshop. We actually have a representative from HESC come every year and do a parent financial aid workshop, and we were lucky enough to be able to film it, and we have that. We do have 2 workshops coming up that we have scheduled. We have one financial aid workshop for parents scheduled for October 23rd that you will all be getting information about very soon. And we have another one directly being done by an HESC representative on November 3rd as well. So we have 2 financial aid workshops specifically dealing with the financial aid process in way more in depth than what we're covering here. Okay, and then as we were talking about scholarships before, another part of our insistence in finishing that college application by Christmas break is you could turn your attention to looking for scholarships, free money. We always recommend the students to look for and apply for as many scholarships as they can. Anything that you may qualify for, however specific or broad it might be, it cannot hurt to fill out a scholarship application. As Ms. Levine stated earlier, oftentimes there is an essay. Many times they can just use your already existing college essay or you may just have to tweak it a little bit for a specific scholarship. But putting in the time is worth it when it comes to, being able to pay for some things with some good old free money. So I know it says guidance scholarship spreadsheet. We used to keep an old fashioned paper spreadsheet of it. Now everything is digital. So now everything goes into the Google Classroom. And some of these are just other sites that we recommend. The niche.com is a great one for scholarship searches. Actually, niche.com is a great one in general for researching schools. A lot of the reviews in there are based on actual students from schools. So you could do a big, extensive college search on there and get an idea about how schools match up. But it's also great for scholarship searches. Scholarships.com is good. Employers and unions are big. A lot of employers may offer scholarships for employees who have students that are going on to college, especially, with the unions as well. And then we also post the Woodlands High School Scholarship Fund. We always make sure as many kids take that application as possible. In the spring, the Falcons Booster Club, the PTA scholarship, school-specific scholarships. Usually any merit-based scholarship that you may qualify for, the school will automatically consider you for, and it will become part of the financial package that they send once they send you an acceptance. However, we do recommend that when kids are doing their research and looking into their chosen schools on their websites, there are times where they may be a school-specific scholarship application or some extra questions that they may have to fill out for that school-specific scholarship. So definitely keep that in mind.
Just want to add one thing to that. Like Mr. Dominguez said, like employment or workforce scholarships. If you work for a company or corporation, you may not be aware of their scholarship, and I'm not really sure who you'd speak to at your particular job, but always ask someone at your job, do they offer a scholarship or any sort of financial incentive or offerings for employees who have, a child about to go off to college. It's also important to note that we actively search for scholarships and we share all of the information that we get on scholarships as soon as we get it. However, there are tons of scholarships out there that we do not receive. So we don't want you to think that the only scholarships available are the ones that we post and share. There are several more out there. And again, we actively do try to find as many as we can. And as a result of that, over the years, several of our students have won several hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarship money, meaning money that you don't have to pay back. But however, you may still have to do some scholarship searching on your own, and that's okay. But I just don't want everyone to think that, we're the only source of scholarships. So again, we do share every bit of information that we get. We post it and make it accessible and available. We set up digital links so that the student can go directly to the scholarship site from our guidance Google page. However, there are other scholarships out there. Some people say, well, how do I find it? You could actually just start by typing in scholarships. Please just be careful about organizations and agencies that want to charge you a fee to look for scholarships. They're going to do the same thing that you can do. They're just going to do a simple search. So they may ask you a bunch of questions that make you feel like you're really dealing with a headhunter. They may have a few scholarships that they've used in the past and they researched it to find out that the scholarship is active again for that particular year. But you shouldn't have to pay a lot of money when you're looking for money. So again, if you want to use a service that finds scholarships for you and for your children, that's great, but just really be careful about the ones that are charging you, $300, $400, $500, $1,000 to do the same search that you can do for free. Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so interview do's and don'ts. Obviously, most colleges are not doing in-person interviews now. They're doing a lot of virtual. And in my lifetime, what I have seen is it's usually the alumni now who are doing the interviews. In other words, you're not getting a virtual interview with an admissions counselor at a college. They just don't have the time. So a way in which the colleges like to keep their alumni involved is they offer them the opportunity to interview students. It keeps their alumni happy and involved with the college. And I think it's a little easier for the student than sort of being intimidated by an admissions officer, which perhaps they might be. So the do's and don'ts, obvious. Students got to make eye contact with whoever is speaking to them. Sit up straight, speak clearly. In terms of questions, student can figure out the type of questions they might be asked about. They might actually be asked by the interviewer before they even have an interview to send along a resume. And so then the interviewer, it will be easier for the interviewer to ask questions of the student, and the student will know his or her resume inside and out, and this should be pretty easy to answer. There is also, obviously, you don't bring a parent to the interview. You don't want anyone in the background. And I know the students tend to be a little bit, many of them, a little intimidated by this process. But again, if you can encourage a student to interview, if an interview is offered, it's another great way of showing interest in the school. Usually the interviewer will write up a little blurb about the student and send it to the admissions office. But I think it's, it would be very, very unusual for an interview to hurt a student unless they did something just outrageous. So I think it can really help in showing interest. It's usually a good way to learn about a school. You can engage, a student can engage an interviewer with a simple question. Ask what that person enjoyed most about their college experience. You get them talking, it makes it easier for the student, and the student gets to learn a lot that way. Student could ask, have they kept any friends that they've made in college? Have they kept sort of lifelong friends? The one thing I would caution about is the student should not be asking for information that can be easily found on the website. That's not a good place to go. So in terms of questions, you can, there's a note here about there's a lot of sample questions on Google. But what I found is if students get the interviewer talking, they're likely to find out a lot about the school, and it's easier for the student then to really have a conversation. Some of the interviewers are older people, but I've noticed lately that sometimes there's a lot of younger people. Like I know I have 3 sons who've already graduated from college. At least one of them has been asked to interview, and he's a few years out, and so that's usually more comfortable with a student. But in any case, it's something I think that our students should not avoid unless they're like super shy and know this is going to be a disaster. I'd like to encourage it as a way of showing interest in the school.
Dr. Ford, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I apologize. Just a few more things before we go and open it up to Q&A. Again, this is not everything with the college process, but it's just some of the highlights. We always ask the students to be mindful of what they post on social media, the sort of pictures they have up, the sort of language that they use, and the people that if I click on their page, I can click on their friends and sort of go down that rabbit hole. And, then all of a sudden there could be some form of guilt by association and think that, maybe your character isn't becoming and something that we want on our college university campus. So we always ask them to be mindful of what they post. And if they enjoy their youth and they have been posting things that may be slightly inappropriate, and it's like pornography, you don't know how to define it, but you know it when you see it. So and your child knows what's on that borderline of inappropriate. Don't post it. And if you have, take it down. We also ask them to use appropriate email accounts. It's great to be 17, 18 years old and have a real catchy, hilarious email that your friends love, that you think is awesome. But for colleges, universities, scholarships, we ask that they use an appropriate email account. Since most email accounts are free, it's not a bad idea to create one just for professional purposes, but make sure they check it. if they already have a professional email that's not inappropriate, use it. But make sure you give the information to colleges on how to contact you. Make sure the email that you give is the one you check most often. But again, if the one you check most often is the one that may have an inappropriate email name, then maybe that's not the one you want to give to your colleges, universities, or scholarship organizations. We had a young person one time whose email address was Apple Bottom XXL. While we applaud her and don't want to body shame her for the size of her apple bottom, we just don't think that's appropriate to use on a college application. So we did ask her to give a different email address when applying to colleges. Parents, again, we know you want to be involved in the process and you should be, but the students should use their cell phone and their email address account. If your concern is that your child may not be as responsible, as mature, as independent as you would like, and you don't think they're going to check the email or answer the calls or check the voicemail that's left for them if they don't answer the call, that's something you want them to get in the habit of. If you can't trust them to check the email or their phone regularly to receive correspondence from a college, university, or scholarship organization, then you might want to consider sending them a few hours away to live on their own, where you actually have no control over them anymore. There's a thing called a FERPA form the students have to sign. It gives the parents permission to speak to the college. Or the student says the college, university does not have permission to speak to my parents. And several families have tried to sue colleges over this. They say, you know, I still claim the child on my taxes. I'm the one that took out the parent loans. I'm paying the tuition. What do you mean my child is 18 and signed a FERPA form saying that I cannot receive information? And the college will say, that's exactly what we mean. You cannot receive information because your child signed the form. There are parents that'll muscle their children and say, go change it. And as soon as you get in the car and get on the highway, they go back and change it right back so that the school can't communicate with you. So you want to get your child in the habit of self-advocating. Again, we're not saying you can't be part of the process. We're not denying your right as a parent, but you want to start to slowly nudge your child out of the nest and make them responsible for some of the process. And a good way to start is by letting them use their own cell phone and email address, so that when schools communicate with them, they're reaching them and not you. And you say, oh, hold on, I'll go get them. Or you let your child send the email back to the colleges, but the colleges can see that this is mom and dad's email. So the child is responding to me, but from a parent's email address. You know, they need students that are healthy and independent on their college campuses. And a great way of showing that is by allowing your child to communicate directly with them. And, you know, one other thing to consider is explore and review the school website and the social media accounts. Just really, really do your research. For a lot of families, other than purchasing a home, college, university expenses are going to be the biggest expense of your life. You know, again, you know, some schools are going to be very affordable. Some people have substantial savings put away. Some students will earn a significant amount of scholarships. They'll receive grants. They'll actually receive enough aid where you're not paying back a lot of money. But for some people, that's not the case. And again, outside of the purchase of a home, paying for college can be the second biggest expense of your life. So you really want to do your research. You can always transfer schools if the school you pick doesn't work out, but you're still on the cuff for the tuition that you owe for the time that you spent at that particular school. So again, do an exhaustive research of all that the school has to offer. Check their school specific website and check the social media accounts that the schools have. Same way the Greenberg School District has some social media presence, the colleges have a social media presence as well. Okay. We will absolutely continue to work with the seniors. We actually have a meeting scheduled next week with the juniors. And then the week after that, we're meeting with the seniors again. We also meeting with the underclassmen, but for the purposes of tonight, we're just speaking about the 11th and 12th grade. So we don't want you to be alarmed. Today's meeting was the jump start, and we also discussed, you know, the Common App, how to find it, how to fill it out. We talked about the transcript and several other things. We will continuously meet with the students. We will also communicate with them through email and through our guidance Google Classroom. So you don't have to worry about, like tonight we did this college presentation and that's it, we're done. That's not the case at all. It's an active, ongoing process. We actually try to meet with them as much as possible. We're very cognizant of teacher contact time. And we do know that every time we meet with them, we're pulling them out of a class. So that's why we do utilize the guidance Google Classroom and their email. But again, we do try to meet with them as often as possible. And again, so while we're presenting tonight, this is not the last time we plan on speaking with you or your children regarding the college process.
Can I piggyback on what you said, Dr. Foy?
Yes, please do.
Okay, social media, what Dr. Foy was emphasizing, the students to be careful. Many admissions counselors are young people and they are checking more and more. I keep reading about checking up on social media accounts. Easy, they know all the things that your students know. So be super careful about that. And the other thing is about encouraging independence. And we're talking about that FERPA form that students have to file or waive, allowing their parents to find out what's going on at school, whether it's grades or anything else. Colleges are very happy to talk to parents about paying the bills, not so happy to talk about anything else. I'll tell you what I did with all my kids. I said to them, if you would like me to pay your tuition, you need to give me the right to hear from the college. Not that I called up the college, but just so I could get grades if I wanted to see what was going on. So there is that option. I can't say it was strong arming them, but I just presented it as something for them to think about, whether they wanted us to try to pay for it or if they wanted to handle all the finances on their own. So just keep in mind that the college is very happy to talk to you about tuition and paying your bills, but not so happy otherwise, unless your student gives you the right to do that.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. So with that, I mean, honestly, most of you who know me know that I can go on all day and I want to be respectful of people's time. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, I truly appreciate you setting this up for us. And again, I do appreciate all of the families that were able to join us. I do understand that there were several other events going on today. So there are people who are not able to join us, and this will be shared through the PTSA, and then guidance will also upload a video by Monday. So, again, we really do appreciate you partnering with us and being here tonight. Again, we apologize for the time, but we realized there was no time that was convenient. And polling people, we realized that 5 was obviously too early for almost everyone. 6 was a little too early. 6:30 worked. 7:30 was too late. Some said, by then we're doing homework, hair, dinner, putting kids to bed. I'm exhausted. So, we tried to find that sweet spot, understanding that no time was good for everyone. So for those who were able to make it, we are truly appreciative of you partnering with us and being here tonight. And for those who weren't able to make it, no worries. This video will be uploaded, and we have another video that will be uploaded as well.